Hello all, in this video we are going to discuss on how to develop a web app using MVC pattern, and we are going to use HTTP request and HTTP session as parameters in order to handle the request from the client, and we also see a model and view class in order to handle the requests. Um, as you know, we need Java 1.8 or later versions and an Eclipse IDE with STS. Let's go ahead and start our demonstration in the Eclipse. Create a Spring Boot project called parameters demo. And you could name the package as parameters demo here. Click next. So we are going to use Spring Web, Spring Boot DevTools, and Timeleaf. We are not going to use SQL Driver and JPA in this video, but we are using these three dependencies. Okay, so go ahead and click Finish. By now you should be familiar with the structure of the project. So since this is a Maven project, you could see pom.xml, and we have a Timeleaf, Spring Boot Starter, Spring Boot DevTools, and Spring Starter Test JUnit. Okay, so and as you know, you have a our driver class, which is the main class that it is having. Okay, so now we are going to see an MVC pattern. So for that, let's go ahead and create a new class called our regular thing like dog controller. Okay, and let's say we can name this package as controller. Okay, so it should be in com.bundyclasses.parametersdemo.controllers, and you create a class called dog controller. Okay, let's finish this. Okay, let's create a controller method that returns type string, and I want to call it as display. Basically, we just want to display the dogs. I'm returning display.html. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to use the tag controller, and we have to use the tag mapping request or request mapping. Request mapping, and maybe you want to call it as display. Just import the necessary packages that it compiles so that it can compiles. Okay, so this is the old thing that we have already seen in the previous one. So now what we have to do, we have to do the display.html. So since we have a Timeleaf dependency, where this display.html would go? Would it go under source main web app, or would it go under main resources under templates? So it would go under templates because of the Timeleaf, and you would be having a HTML file. Okay, and I think it is display all lowercase .html. Click finish. We have display.html here. Okay, so now what tags that you have to include here? So basically just write some content, So since this is time leaf, we have to include tag HTML XMLNS. I didn't have this handy today, so that's why I'm typing it for you. HTTP HTML XMLNS dot th is equal to, within the quotes, HTTP // www.timeleaf.org. Okay, so now this is a timeleaf display.html. Okay, so let's save all these and launch the project. And as a client, we should display docs. Okay, so you know that how it is working. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to include parameters. So now let's see how we will be using the parameters, which is HTTP servlet request and sessions here. Okay, so here I'm going to pass HTTP servlet request, and I'm going to name the variable as request. So from this, you could see that, I mean, you could import the necessary packages if you get any error. HTTP servlet request is a class that would create objects. Okay, so as you know that servlets work on the server side. So basically, we are doing a server programming now, server side programming. So servlets work on the server side, and these are capable of handling complex requests that are obtained from the web servers. Okay, so in order to handle this, we need to get that particular request. So let's say request dot get session. Okay, so and then you could name it as variable session, and which is nothing but HTTP session. So we got a session. So what do you mean by a session? A session indicates a period of time that has a single user visits a website. Okay, so when a single user visits a website, and you can call, and if the person spends certain amount of time, that is called a session. And a session starts when a user requests for the first page, and during that session, the user may be able to visit any number of pages. And the session ends within certain amount of time that depends on the web server. Okay, as you know, the session would leave in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. It depends on the configuration of the web server. So now we got session, and using that session, what we are going to do is we are going to get the dog name from the browser. Okay, so from that browser, we need to get the dog name. So how we want to get the dog name is basically, so as a request dot get parameter, because I want to pass dog name as a parameter, and I want to get this here. So what you could do is, if you want, you can name it as dog name. Okay, and you could name something here, dog name in, that has a local variable of type string, because the name that I'm going to pass is a string variable that I'm going to pass. Okay, so now what should be happening here is I need to, you should understand here, the client is passing a parameter called dog name. Okay, so that is stored in dog name in. And now what you need to do is you have to display this dog name, whatever the client has been passed, onto our HTML page. For that, what we need to do is we have to use our session, because client has been entered onto the first page, and that means session has been started. And what you need to do is you have to set an attribute into that session, and that session name would be the dog name in that you would do here. Okay, so okay, so now you have to understand which one should be dog name in and which one should be the dog name. Okay, so basically this one is something that you would put it in the quotes that you want to display. Maybe let's say dog name display. Okay, and this is nothing but whatever the name that you are going to get it here. Okay, and we will be using this variable in our HTML page. Okay, so basically what we have done is we get the request using HTTP servlet request, and we created a session for every user, because in the web applications there would be several users, and for each user we can create a session. So here we created a session by using HTTP session class here. I mean, by using this request, and the session is of type HTTP session. And as a client, I'm going to pass the dog name here, and I stored that dog name as dog name in. Okay, and I used a display name here that I'm going to use in HTTP, and I passed whatever I'm going to display here. Okay, so let's go to our HTML page and able to write our code so that you could be able to see here. You could put that in paragraph tag, and you could write here time text hello. Let's say if I want to display hello puppy, which is my dog name, so what you need to do is hello and give some space. Give a space, and you have to use a dollar symbol. I think this is a pretty much familiar to you, which is kind of a JavaScript. I'm going to use session dot. So what I have to use here, whether session dot, whatever the display name that I have been provided here, which is dog name display, which could be of any variable name that you want to do. So I just want to make it this one. Okay, so session dot dog name display. Okay, so let's save everything and we'll see how we get the output. Okay, so basically when I did this, when I enter display, it is going to my controller and a controller method called display, and there that display returns display HTML, and in this I get hello and I get null because I didn't pass any parameter, right? So how to pass a parameter is basically question mark, and I have to pass puppy. On which variable name that I have to pass puppy? So I have to pass puppy with a name, parameter name called dog name is equal to puppy. So now I get hello puppy. Okay, so what's happening is I use this variable name so that the client must be use the same variable name in order to pass the parameter. That parameter name is puppy, and as soon as I pass the parameter, puppy has stored in dog in, and I'm setting, since I'm in this session, I'm going to set that attribute with this particular string, which is the puppy here, with a variable name that I want to use to display on the HTML page. Okay, so this is how I can do with sessions and HTTP request, servlet request. Okay, so there are three other methods that we could do, and we will see that. Okay, so let me comment out this code first. And I want to create my controller one more time. Public string display return display.html. You could use this code here. So this is a basic controller that we have written. Okay, it should still work, but you would get null if you run the code now. So here what we have done is we have considered HTTP session here. Okay, instead of using HTTP servlet request, what we could do is we could be able to get the session directly here itself. We could pass the session in the display itself. Okay, so let's pass the session, HTTP session, and a variable name session. Okay, so you could pass the session there itself. And we already know that what we could do, we could be able to session dot set attribute, and the name would be the display name. What's the display name that we want to give? I mean, I already have code in that HTML page, so let's use the same code. And what value I want to give here? I want to give dog name, right? So in the previous code, what I get is I get this from the my request, which is nothing but the HTTP servlet request. So instead of passing HTTP servlet request here, I'm going to pass another parameter directly, let's say dog name. Okay, so I'm going to pass a parameter called dog name, and I could use this name here. Dog name. Okay, so I passed a string and I did this. This is another way that you could do. Okay, let's run the code. I didn't change anything in my display.html. So the same variable name. Let's see. Okay, so display null, question mark, dog name is equal to puppy. Okay, so dog name is puppy. Okay, so basically I'm using the dog name, whatever the name that it has been done here. Okay, so now sometimes if you want to type SSN and you want to be secured, let's say you want to put a dog name and you want to be secured. So you don't want to call it as dog name, and for that you can mask the dog name to some other name. For that, what you need to do you have to use @request param, and you want to give whatever the name that you want to provide here. Let's say secret. Let's say mask name. Okay, so I don't want to call it as dog name, but I just want to call it as mask name. Use appropriate imports for this. Okay, so relaunch the program. a project. Start from here. Okay, so you got white label error. So because it's a generic page and we use this one, and we don't have anything like that. So now let's use dog name.puppy. You still have the same error. Because I don't want to use dog name, I want to use masked name. Okay, so now I got hello puppy. Okay, so far we have seen taking HTTP request as a parameter, and instead of taking HTTP request, we used @request param and directly the dog name variable and HTTP session in the parameters itself. Okay, so this is another thing that you want to know. Let's do a little bit different. Use the toggle comment. So that's what we have seen so far, HTTP request and HTTP session as parameters. And we will see a model view class now. Okay, so basically that's our last topic. Let's go ahead and create our controller method. Return what? Display.html. Okay, so this is our regular thing. So now we want to use our model view control. Okay, we want to use our model view control. For that, what we need to do is we will be using model and view class. Okay, so there is a class called model and view. Okay, so now you will get an error definitely because display.html is not of type model and view. Okay, so let's remove that. What we need to do is use that model and view class. Let's create an object called model and view. Okay. I want to take parameters here. So what parameters I should take? So at least I'm taking string dog name. Okay, so I'm taking a string dog name, and I'm going to set, previously we set attribute for the session. So here we are going to set attribute for the set view name. Here we have view name. Okay, so previously we used session.set attribute, but here this is model and view class. We are going to use set view name. And what's our view name? Our view is display.html. Okay, our view is display.html. And now into this view, we can add objects. So what object that we are going to get now? We are getting the dog name, right? So, and you can call it as a object. I mean, you have object here, right? So you could use here that you would be using object name, a string, and then the object value, name and the object. Okay, you could use this, and the name that I want to use here is dog name itself, and attribute value is nothing but attribute is what? Attribute is dog name, sorry. And this would be dog name display. I'm adding this object to a view. Okay, so this would be dog name display. So this would be in the quotes and dog name that I already passed. Okay, now you could return that model view. Okay, so you could return that model view here. What else you have to do? You need to change the code in the display.html because this is for the session, and you could write your comment here, something http servlet request and http sessions as parameters. Okay, so this would work for that. Comment it. How to comment this? This is with model and view with string as a parameter. Okay, so you can copy paste. We are not using session anymore, and you could use display dot this one. Okay, so so basically what we have done is we took the string as parameter, and we know that model view class. I'll show the API in just a second. There you can set the view name and you could add object. The object that we are adding is nothing but the dog name, and we use that as a dog name display. Okay, so relaunch the project. Okay, let's pass dog name is equal to puppy. Get some error. Because we didn't have at the rate request mapping of display. Okay, let's try now. Okay, this we are getting from the previous session. Let's comment out this code as well. Run it once again. Okay, so we got null because we didn't pass any parameter. And let's say we pass dog name dot puppy. Now we got puppy here. And if you want to add something, let's add something here, hyphen, and you could see that. Okay, hello puppy. Okay, so this is with the model view, model and view. Let me open model and view class API for you. This has lots of constructors and methods that you could use. Model and view, we use default constructor now, and in the next part we will be using by passing view name in the argument itself. And you can pass HTTP request, you could pass the map object as well, even the model. Here you pass the view, and you could pass the model as well, model and view too. Okay, so you could do all that stuff. So what we will do now is we would be able to um, comment the source code here. Okay, so far what we have been doing is we are passing only one thing, which is dog name. Well, some of you may have questioned if I have to pass the dog age, which is of type integer or double. So that means instead of string, you have to pass object integer, not the data type integer, object integer. Okay. But however, as we know, dog object will have several attributes of different data types. So at the time, we have to create a dog entity. Okay, so that is nothing but model. All the data entities would be in the model. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a class here called dog, and let's place it in model. Let's say models, dog class. So now you could see nicely organized more controllers, models, and all views are in your templates here. So let's quickly write our dog class, dog ID, private string dog breed. Let's insert our getter setters and toString method. Okay, so we got our getter setters and toString. So that means our model has dog object or dog entity, which has all the three attributes. And now, so far in the browser, we are just passing puppy. From now onwards, we have to pass all of our three attributes, which is basically a dog object. Okay, so okay, let's write our controller method. That returns a model and view object. Let's use the same name, display. And now this display takes the whole dog object. Okay, so make sure you import dog class, and we have to create a model and view. Object is equal to new model and view. So as we have already seen in the API of model and view, you can directly pass the view here, display.html. Okay. Now, if you look at in the above method that has been commented, so we created object and we set view name as display.html. But here we already passed display.html, so we don't have to have this. Okay. So what we need to do is we have to add object to that. Okay. So we are going to add the value of dog, D, and we have to write an attribute name that we are going to display it on the HTML page. So you could directly write dog name display. Okay. So now we could return your model view. Okay. So this is a simple thing that you could write. Okay. Let's run this. Okay. And we are getting the error. Yes. Request mapping is mandatory, right? Okay. In the display.html, if you want to, you can comment out this. Basically, the same thing could be written. I think the same thing would work, but just for the comments purpose, I'm writing here. Hello, dog name.display is the same, right? So with MV, model and view, and dog as a parameter. Okay. So let's save and relaunch the project. And now we'll see. Okay, that's good. We got the output. We are displaying dogs and hello dog, dog ID 0, null, null, because we didn't give any values here. We didn't give puppy or something like that, right? So let me give dog ID is equal to puppy, and you could give these values in any order, and you have to use ampersand in between those values. Okay, dog name is equal to puppy, and dog breed is equal to, let's say, pug. Okay, we have an error. What's error? Okay, so just give some number here, because these are the attribute names that are coming from the model, which are the entity. Okay, so which is exact names that you have to give. So now you get the values and displayed it here. Okay, so this way we would be able to look into the controllers, models, and views. Okay, so let me organize the source code for you. Format it nicely. Okay, so with this we are successfully demonstrated so with this we successfully demonstrated how to develop a web app with the model view and control. Here our model is the dog entity class, view is display.html, controller is dog controller, and we have used same controller method and commented out several times by using the parameters, one with the HTTP servlet request, one with the HTTP session, and we returned, instead of string, we returned model and view class itself. Okay, so I recommend you to practice this to get some hands-on experience. Okay, thank you.